It was raining that night, the kind of cold, unforgiving rain that soaks through your soul and makes the city lights blur like tears on a window. On a nearly empty subway train, a young woman with weary eyes and trembling hands clutched a torn handbag against her chest. She was exhausted, not just from the day, but from life itself. And as the train rattled through the tunnels, she finally let herself close her eyes, her head gently falling onto the shoulder of the man sitting next to her, a man in a sleek black suit, his wristwatch worth more than everything she owned. The passengers around them noticed, some smiled, some whispered. But what happened next would change both of their lives forever. Cloud with Rain Chapter 1, The Shoulder of a Stranger. Her name was Lena Carter, 26 years old, single mother of a 6-year-old boy named Eli. Life hadn't been kind to her. She worked 2 part-time jobs, one as a waitress at a late-night diner, and another cleaning offices after dark. Sleep was a luxury she could barely afford. That night, she had just finished her shift at 1 a.m. and missed the last bus. The subway was her only way home. Her body ached, her shoes were soaked, her hands were raw from scrubbing. And as she sat down, the weight of everything, bills, hunger, loneliness, came crashing down all at once. She didn't notice the man beside her, tall, sharply dressed, staring blankly at his phone with the kind of detached expression only the wealthy seem to perfect. His name was Alexander Reed, CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company, known for his ruthless business moves and cold demeanor. Lena's eyelids fluttered. She was trying to stay awake. She had to pick Eli from her neighbor's place before morning, but exhaustion won. Her head slowly tilted, landing gently on Alexander's shoulder. He froze. No one had ever dared get that close to him, not without permission. He was used to formality, to distance. But when he looked down at her, her face pale with fatigue, the faint traces of tears on her cheeks, something inside him softened. For the next few stops, he didn't move. He just sat there, letting her rest. He noticed her hands, rough, blistered, and her clothes, soaked and threadbare. She looked like someone who had been fighting life every single day. When the announcement for her station came, Lena stirred awake suddenly, embarrassed. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her cheeks flushing red. "I didn't mean to." "It's all right," Alexander said softly, surprising even himself with the tone of his voice. "You looked like you needed it." She smiled shyly. "Thank you," she murmured, gathering her bag and hurrying out. But as she left, something fell from her bag, a small, worn-out drawing of her and a little boy holding hands, with the words, "Mommy, you're my hero." Alexander picked it up. And for the first time in years, he didn't go back to checking his phone. He just stared at that drawing, and wondered who she was. Sun Chapter 2, When Worlds Collide. The next morning, Lena arrived late to her cleaning job at the headquarters of Reed Tech, one of the city's most powerful companies. She didn't know it, but fate was about to bring her back to the man from the subway. As she scrubbed the marble floors of the executive lobby, she heard footsteps approaching, sharp, confident ones. She turned, and froze. It was him. Alexander Reed, the man whose shoulder she had fallen asleep on, stood there, perfectly dressed, holding her son's drawing in his hand. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but curious. "Does this belong to you?" Lena's face went pale. "That's my son's," she whispered, mortified. He studied her for a moment. The same tired eyes, the same gentle sadness. "You left it on the subway last night," he said quietly. "You work here?" "Yes, sir. I clean the floors." "I'm sorry if—" "No need to apologize," he interrupted. "You're very hardworking, aren't you?" She didn't know how to answer. People like him didn't usually notice people like her. But that day, something changed. Alexander couldn't shake the image of her sleeping face, the exhaustion carved into her bones. He found himself thinking about her, during meetings, dinners, even late at night. A few days later, he saw her again in the lobby, struggling with a heavy mop bucket. Without thinking, he stepped forward. "Let me help." She blinked in shock. "Sir, you don't have to." "I know," he said with a small smile. "But maybe I want to." Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed again and again. He'd bring her coffee. Sometimes, he'd ask about her son. Slowly, Lena began to open up, about Eli, about her late husband, about how she'd lost everything but refused to give up. Alexander listened, really listened, for the first time in his life. He realized how empty his success had become. He had money, power, luxury, but no warmth, no meaning. And Lena, with her kindness and quiet strength, became a mirror reflecting everything he was missing. One evening, after finding out that Lena had been unfairly fired by a cruel supervisor, Alexander called a meeting. When she showed up, teary-eyed and humiliated, she expected more disappointment. Instead, he looked at her and said, "You don't work for them anymore. You work for me, as my personal assistant." Her mouth fell open. "Sir, I'm not qualified." "Yes, you are," he said simply. "You're the most honest person I've met in a long time." From that day on, everything changed. Lena worked beside Alexander, helping him rediscover his humanity, and in turn, he helped her rebuild her life. Eli began to see him as a father figure. And slowly, a quiet, unspoken love grew between them. Months later, during a company charity gala, Alexander gave a speech that made the whole room fall silent. He looked right at Lena and said, "Success means nothing if you forget compassion. Sometimes, the person who changes your life isn't a millionaire, but a single mother who fell asleep on your shoulder." The crowd applauded, some with tears in their eyes. Lena did too, because that night, she realized something beautiful. She hadn't just found kindness. She'd found a new